Welcome to Created Healthy. I'm Dawn Combs. It's a common idea that God gave us everything we need in nature, but do we believe it enough to walk that out in truth? Often the very same people who say this go looking for answers on how to use food and medicine from man-made sources. Everything man creates comes with a user's manual. Why would God be any different? I challenge you to join me in seeking revelation about our body, mind, soul, and spirit health by digging into His written word and in practicing pure science in the visible world of His creation. Several years ago, we had sheep on our farm, and I think raising sheep helps you to understand some of the Psalms a little bit better, especially Psalm 23, which is in the reading today. We're reading Psalm 22 through 25. And when you read something about the Lord being your shepherd, I think without raising sheep, you kind of have an understanding. He's guiding you around. He's looking over you in a general way. But until you raise sheep and really understand their personalities and what it means to need a shepherd, I think there's a depth of Psalm 23 that you really kind of miss. So I want to see if I can share that, whether you've shared or whether you've raised sheep before or whether you haven't. Sheep are, well, you hear a lot of things about them. The ones that have been overbred, the ones that are now raised for intense growth of meat or maybe specific type of fleece have been overbred. The ones that you see at fair, when you go and see what the kids have brought for 4-H, the breeds there are just dumb. They're dumb. And that's not because sheep are dumb. It's because of the overbreeding. We raised Shetland sheep, and Shetland sheep are pretty well unmessed with as a breed. They are really hardy. They'll go out in a snowstorm and lay down and get buried in snow and be super happy just laying out there. They're grown for fleece. They're not raised for milk. They're not raised for meat. They're a small sheep. And so you really just raise them for fleece. And when they haven't been overbred, they do have individual personalities. And I think that we have to think about that when we think about when David wrote this, and he was a shepherd. He was not raising industrially bred sheep. He was raising sheep that were primarily unfooled with. So he was dealing with sheep that they are willful. They do sometimes push the boundaries of a fence or wander off under their own power and want to go do their own thing. We had one of our sheep was named Sally, and she was our brown sheep, and she was super chatty. And she wanted to mother Aiden so badly. She wanted to be a little mother, and unfortunately, she was an overbearing mother. And he remembers just being knocked down by her a lot. But her issue was she wanted to graze peacefully and not have to move around a lot. And she wanted Aiden to be within sight. She wanted him to be safe. She wanted to know where he was. And so if he was just really starting to walk. So if he got up and stood and started to toddle away, she was right on his heels and would headbutt him squarely in the stomach or between the shoulder blades and knock him down. And when he was sitting there crying, then she would go back to peacefully chewing in the grass because she knew where he was and she was fine. She was a really, really neat personality, but I think overall you have to understand that sheep are pretty simple creatures. They don't have huge aspirations, not like goats. Goats have world domination in mind. They want to eat the trees that they see just outside of their fence, and then when they get to those trees, they realize that those aren't enough, and they want the trees that are at the edge of the property line, and when they get there, those probably don't taste as good as the trees that are in the neighbor's yard. They're always grasping and running after something else, and they sort of frantically run from one place to another, and their eyes are wide open. They're looking up. Sheep look down. They're grazers, so they just move along. And the idea of pulling the wool over somebody's eyes really is true, the sheep, because when their wool is on, they really kind of have wool blinders on. They look down at the grass. They're looking for the choicest things to munch on. They're single-mindedly focused. They don't stand and gaze off into the distance a lot. They kind of just eat. And when we think about a shepherd that is going to be responsible for that kind of a creature, you have to watch out for the willful ones, the ones with a lot of personality, but you generally are responsible for putting them where they need to get, where they will be to get the choicest grass, the most nutritious food, where they're not going to accidentally wander off a cliff, where they're not going to wander into a cave, where they're not going to be their foot stuck in a hole or get injured in that way. They're not looking around all the time for predators, so that's your job. And they're really pretty oblivious of danger. They're trusting and they're dependent. So when we go through the 23rd Psalm, this idea that we are the sheep under Jesus' care, under God's care. He is the shepherd. He has a staff and a rod, and they're not there to beat us or harm us. They are gently correcting us. They're nudging us so that we know we've gone the wrong direction and nudging us back towards the good grass. The 23rd Psalm talks about making us lie down in green pastures. So giving us the best things to nourish us, making sure that we have it within reach and we don't even have to stretch or walk or run after it. Having us lie beside the still waters so we have access to cooling waters for keeping our bodies running, and our thirst is quenched, and it's not rough water. We're not going to get sucked in or pulled under. There's not turmoil, there's peace. The idea that we would have our head anointed with oil, this is something that you do with sheep. This is a practice to keep down parasites. So to take care of you so that you're not being picked on. The idea that you are having a table prepared for you in the presence of your enemies. So if you're a sheep, the pasture that's green in front of you is a table that's prepared for you. And there are enemies all around, but the shepherd is watching out and is going to fight or kill or run off any kind of predator that comes your way. And you don't even need to be aware of it because he's got it. I think about reading through the 23rd Psalm. Sheep are super delicate too. So walking through the valley of the shadow of death and not fearing any evil, it's just this very simple life. It's something that I have definitely overcomplicated my life and felt so much stress and so much pressure. And I know that it's things that I've created because God's path is supposed to be the 23rd Psalm. We are led through challenges. We will be attacked. We will have things come against us, but we've got the shepherd, and the shepherd will take care of it, and we don't have to fear it. The path is not promised to be perfect, but it's promised that we will have everything that we need, and we can really just go about life in a simple way, a simple, trusting way. What it would be like to be a sheep and to just trust. We would be in so much better shape if we could fully inhabit this mindset of just trusting that we're going to be led to where there is food. We're going to be led to where there is water. All of our needs are going to be met. We're going to be protected. We don't even have to look up and look around and plan or scheme or organize or figure out where our next step is going to be because the shepherd's got it. It's a very simple, peaceful life that we really can have when we turn everything over and let God shepherd us. when we can live like a sheep. It doesn't mean that we aren't willful, we don't have personality, we aren't skilled or the best wool grower or really funny. Sheep are individuals, even in this idea of this herd. They aren't mindless, and but they are trusting, and they live a life that is free from all of the care and stress that we choose to put on ourselves when we leave the herd, when we want to be something other than a sheep, when we want to be, maybe we want to be a goat. Maybe we want to go our own way and go find better. The grass that the shepherd keeps taking us to isn't as good as maybe the grass that we think we could find all on our own. This is how we wind up in a lot of the strife that we're living in. And I'm praying today that you would sit down and read Psalm 23 and think about it from the perspective of the sheep. How can you be more like the sheep? How can you live that simple life and shed all of the things that you are stressing about? Not that you're not responsible for them, not that they're not happening, but that you can give it over to the shepherd that has all of your needs met, that's taking care of everything, and trust that the shepherd will take care of it and lead you where you need to go. I pray that God is blessing you with that sort of peace today, and I pray that He brings you back to study with me on another day. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. And I'm always interested in hearing what God is laying on your heart. So drop me a rating or review, or join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Dawn Combs Really.